generally just be talking about the use of these technologies in parliaments. I think with a specific application to the National Assembly of Zambia. So as we have seen the trends today, I think technology is playing a key role in enhancing a lot of functions in different industries, and the public sector is one of them. It's not an exception. To that end, there are a lot of opportunities that we need to look out for, where we could enhance our operations as parliament, as far as it concerns the advancement in technologies and artificial intelligence being at the center of those innovations. I could briefly talk about some of the areas in which I feel, like in my case, are quite ripe for the application of artificial intelligence. I'll start with the administrative tasks, because parliaments have two sides of the business. There is an administrative side, and then there's the legislative part, which is they are commanded. So in the administration, we have a lot of tasks which could actually be automated and made more efficient. I'll give an example. In the Parliament of Zambia, we have recently launched a website which we are calling a youth website. The objective of that website is to present the information that is found on the main website in a manner that is appealing to the younger population. So that's why we're calling it the youth-friendly website. Now, when the debates and proceedings are happening, obviously the outputs of those meetings are in the standard parliamentary documents, the Hansard. That is the final output. But we would want to package such information in a way that the youth will find attractive without all the parliamentary jargons. So that is one area that I feel is ripe for AI innovations. If we could find a way to automatically translate to a form that could be appealing to the youth, I think that would be nice. We could even use the content, assuming our models are intelligent enough to understand the actual text that has been presented on the floor of the House, and generate maybe a video or a visual form of that content that could straight go to the other website. That would make our workflows a little bit more efficient. Actually, not a little bit, a lot more efficient, because the translation and then the generation of the visual data would cut out a lot of our time. We could also apply automation in the realm of data management. We could, for example, we're running some digital repository within the institution, and someone has to catalog that information now. But using AI, will be in a place where we could have the system run through the repository and catalog the information accordingly, intelligently, and making it easier for people to access and also to search. Another area which is good for automation is it's partly administrative and partly legislative, but the technology is the same. It's still audio to text translations. Um, right now, we're using a system that records the proceedings of the House, even when we have meetings. Sometimes they are recorded and someone has to minute them thereafter and produce the minutes. And in the case of the publication of the Hansard, a group of people actually have to translate the audio to text, and then thereafter, that text is edited until it meets the standard of, of, of our Hansard documents. But using AI tools, we could cut out part of that process. For example, the first part, which is converting audio to text. That one we could easily use some tool to help us with that. And there's something in the pipeline for National Assembly that we are trying out. So we are still trying out the technology and see how compliant it will be with the rules of the House. As you may be aware, every parliament is unique in as much as they share certain ways of doing things, but their rules of how they do things may be different from one parliament to another. So we're trying to see how compliant that will be and how much we can tweak it to fit in our use case. So with such systems, you would find that we will introduce a lot of efficiencies within our workflows, and it will free up a lot of other human resources that could be assigned to do other tasks. So as far as AI usage in Parliament go, we have other applications as well. For example, um, today we could build tools that are AI based that would enhance how we conduct our legislative research. And such tools could also be very helpful to carry out, uh, to help us assess the impact of both the proposed legislation as well as the enacted ones. And in the case of the enacted legislation, if such tools are in place, they could also help us understand how effective they are. Essentially, um, helping us see if there is need to review such legislation. And for proposed legislation, the tools could help us see if the legislation that is being proposed is compliant, if it's not in conflict with anything that is already in existence. Using human beings to look through the volumes of data that exist in Parliament to actually determine some of these things could take a long time. It requires a lot of time to achieve such kinds of research and analysis. But using computer models, we could easily achieve such levels of efficiencies within our parliaments. Another one that actually is even being mentioned over and over, even when our parliament is sitting, has to do with the way we process the, the business that members of parliament propose. These are questions and motions. We have some rules that guide how uh, or let me simply call them rules of admissibility of such proposed business. It must conform to those for it to be admitted, even before the speaker could start considering if they should be on the order paper for any day or not. Once again, because we have huge volumes of data, And some of those questions could have been asked within a particular year, but you may not easily determine because of the way the data is kept. We may slip and admit a question that has already been asked, but using these computer models could easily help us understand that a similar question has been asked. Actually, with the tool that we've built for the members of parliament, once we plug in such capabilities, just as they are trying to submit those questions or motions, once the system previews, they could be informed that there is already some existing submission that was done on a particular day. It could be a year ago or whatever period it is, and this was what was discussed on that issue. If it's still relevant, maybe they could still go ahead and submit, knowing that there's already something that exists and the context in which it was discussed on the floor of the House. And another application is in the generation of the order paper, which is the business of the House. In the case of the National Assembly, Parliament sits from different times on different days, and the aim is to make sure that we generate enough business for that day, that Parliament sits for that day and considers everything on the order paper. We don't want to put too little business so that they could adjourn an hour before the time that the standing orders are provided for. And also, we do not want to have too much business that we keep pushing business forward as which would be coming back as orders of the day. So to determine how much business could be there is quite a challenge. And using advanced AI tools, I think we could be able to sort out such a problem, especially if the tools could have uh, uh, a way to understand the sentiments of the public over a particular subject matter, which we could use to determine possibly how much time the House could spend discussing such an item, and also just to understand the mood within the House itself. Also using past experience on matters of a certain nature. I think those are the areas in which AI could help us. I think um, help with making our processes more efficient. Another useful application, I think, could be equipping the members of parliament with information at the right time. For example, if you wanted to analyze the budget as a member of parliament, I think it would take quite a lot. In as much as we have a budget office that helps them analyze the budget, but if we had other tools as well that could take information, analyze, and present it in a way that informs them of the direction of the government's implementation of their policies as far as budgeting goes, I think such information would help members provide more oversight on the executive. Another area that is uh, quite ripe for AI intervention, and we are seriously considering this, is in the realm of public engagement in a number of ways. Firstly, though we intend to start this with a system that will be trying locally just within Parliament to see how it will be faring, then we could externalize. But this is the use of chatbots as assistants. People would be able to ask for certain information, and then we see how they'll be responding. If we can ascertain that the way they are working is fine, then we will be able to roll out such a system to the public. Then another one that will actually help our efficiencies is in processing the electronic submissions by the public. As we encourage the public to be more and more engaged with the operations of Parliament, for example, if a committee uh, is considering a particular matter, they would invite the public in addition to their key witnesses to make certain submissions. Now, uh, with public engagement on such matters, we've also provided a platform through the website where a member of the public could make a submission of what on whatever subject is being considered. That grows the amount of data that the committee department now has to deal with before they could be considered and tabled. With the short time frame that the committee is given, I think using a bit of AI to analyze such systems and categorize them would be of much help and would make their work a little bit much easier. Um, Now, I think I would like to mention that in as much as we see the positive side of these modern technological advancements, um, there has to be a certain level of precaution that has to be applied as we try to evolve as parliaments to use them. And one of them is the fact that parliaments have certain values on which they are founded. So we do not want to relegate the role of parliament to a computer, to a machine, to a system. Systems will always be limited to only make our human back processes more efficient. Like I've mentioned, where a machine could process huge volumes of data in a time frame that human beings may simply not just cope. But ultimately, um, these systems are only going to help us process that data, but the decisions have to be made by humans. So these are some of the risks that have to be managed. Also, making sure that everything coming out of these systems must be looked at by humans. We need a way in which we manage the risk. We do not want a computer today generates information that we cannot stand by as an institution. So even when we use generative models, we must still be able to verify at least the way they are thinking. We should be able to explain that we've arrived at this conclusion because the data that was given was this, and this is how it has been processed. So we need a way in which we could explain the thinking of these systems that we want to embark on. And another key area that must be considered is one of the likely impacts of modernization, which is a potential to replace the human element in these processes. So like I've stated already, the human element must always exist. AI is there to only augment our efficiencies. It's only there to help us achieve our goals quicker. So before embarking on this on the use of AI, it's quite important that the Parliament must conduct a comprehensive assessment of the possible impact on the humans, how much human resource would be affected before we even get to the point of implementing. Uh, when that assessment has been done, then we could now plan on how we're going to redeploy these people that could be affected. Um, One of the cries of most parliaments is that we just do not have enough human resource for us to be able to conduct our business to the level of efficiency that we would like. So if humans retrained and deployed where more humans are needed, I think would be able to achieve a lot more whilst almost maintaining the same expenditure, because we've implemented some systems in some places that are helping us with certain things. So that is a very key thing to consider before we embark on AI implementation. Um, uh, and To help us do this, we need to establish a way in which we're going to implement AI in the first place. So I would give an example. In the case of National Assembly, there are at least two bodies that have been established to help guide the implementation of the strategic plans of the institution. So there is a lower body which is called the Strategic Plan Implementation Committee, which is more hands-on, a little bit more on the ground, and deals with the nitty-gritties of the implementation. And then there is a higher body which is fed by the Implementation Committee, which is the Strategic Plan Steering Committee. So the strategic plan steering committee is the body that would finally make all these decisions that would, once they've been proposed by the lower body, then the main body would consider those, and they'll guide on the way in which we should go. So such a body for the institution like National Assembly is rightly placed to help govern the implementation of artificial intelligence. Once all those assessments are done and the recommendations are submitted to the body, it could now decide on the right way in which artificial intelligence and all these modern technologies are going to be implemented within the institution. Uh, I think I would end my submission here.
Excellent. Thank you, David. It's a very comprehensive update, and it's really interesting to understand, what you've been focusing on and some of the initiatives which you've actually been working on as well. I'd like to understand a little bit more around your youth website. And I've just had a look as well whilst you've been describing it as well, and it looks quite interesting in terms of the different demographics or the different age groups which you've been actually targeting as well. So I was wondering, can you sort of maybe dive into a little bit more detail in terms of, why you've wanting to actually create a website specifically for the youth, and how that sort of really is impacting some of your parliamentary processes, such as submissions or petitions or a range of those sort of other aspects.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. So let me be quick to mention that it's fairly recently launched. So we haven't yet conducted any impact assessment, but I could speak to what we are trying to achieve. I think one of the problems that we have generally in Zambia is that most people may not be that much, they're not that much interactive as far as parliamentary processes are concerned. So in trying to bridge that gap, in trying to bring Parliament closer to the people, there are a number of interventions that Parliament has been taking. The youth website is one of them. So there are things that we've done like Parliament Radio, Parliament TV. Then we have a department that has been doing some outreach programs where they would go to a particular area and talk about Parliament and the things that the citizens should expect of Parliament. So the youth website, in particular, we're trying to come up with content that is that would find attractive yet informative to a particular group of people. Imagine if we could start getting children as young as 6 years old about Parliament. When these guys grow up, I think they just might be better citizens than we are, who never got exposed to such information. So what we may expect of the future generation may be different from what is expected of us currently. So that is one of the aims of the youth website, to try and see if we will be able to get content that would keep our audience in different categories well hooked up to parliamentary information. And with that in mind, I think the levels of engagement in the future would be different. Because let me mention this also. So this website we've created is going to be giving out the information about Parliament, what is happening, or there's this new law, or this is how we expect it to affect us. Then we've developed another application. It's a mobile application for the public. It's called My e-Parliament. It's also about citizen engagement. With this system, our aim is to virtualize. We have constituency offices where we can walk in physically and maybe schedule a meeting to meet the area member of Parliament, or just make a submission about what you'd want attended to within the constituency. So these things are also being done on that application. So when we combine the level of exposure of the younger generation to what is happening in Parliament, and then we have these tools that are available on their mobile phones as well, I think the levels of engagement would definitely improve. That is one of the things that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when we look at a lot of the sort of African nations at the moment. You know, they are investing significantly in the citizen engagement and also the mobile application space as well for the younger generation. Whereas I see you know, with other countries, such as even in Australia or, you know, other sort of parts of this world, that they're still reliant on the website as the example to drive that sort of integration. So I'm really very much an advocate for mobile applications, especially with the generation which we're actually dealing with at the moment, coming through the technology age as an example. One of the sort of other questions which I did have for you was the different languages that you would actually deal with within your parliamentary process. And what are some of the inherent challenges with all your different dialects? And would you hope to see artificial intelligence to play some sort of role in terms of helping, I suppose, the whole country understand all those sort of different dialects, which, you know, they may not understand or may not speak, as an example, or even the burden on, say, for example, Hansard, you know, and transcription. What are your thoughts around how that could be a potential useful tool for those sort of scenarios?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much for that. Firstly, in Zambia we have one official language. Unfortunately, we use English as our official language. Um, but we have 72, 73 ethnic groupings in Zambia. So uh, you would imagine that there might be a lot of people who just might not be able to speak English. Even those that speak English don't speak it the same way because of our mother tongue interference and whatnot. And I think this is even one of the concerns for what we're trying to do with the automatic translations or the parliamentary debates. We'll see how well to be able to handle different dialects of English that will be able to expose the system to. That said, I think AI, once well implemented, will be a very useful companion in this case. If, for example, so in as much as we have the 72 ethnic groupings, we have fewer major languages. I think these Bemba, Tonga, Nyanja, they're about 7. Uh, if we could get AI to work even with just the major ones, we could translate the Hansard into these languages, and that would go a long way. Since not everyone would be able to understand the English version of the Hansard, if we published it in these 7, we'd be able to catch at least another part of our demography that would get interested in what goes on in Parliament. So AI is definitely something to consider in this regard, in as much as at the moment we only publish our documents in English.
No, that's really interesting. I think one of the other sort of areas which I think sparked my interest was around your submissions or around committees. And I think a lot of citizens probably don't understand or appreciate the amount of work that is actually required to actually run a committee or run an inquiry, which actually is then handling your public submissions. And every single submission that actually comes in needs to be considered, needs to be thought through. And I know that I was talking with sort of New Zealand counterparts, and they were saying, you know, that one of their sort of recent committees had 300,000 plus submissions.
Wow.
And yeah, like it's quite significant. And that's a good thing for democracy because people want to engage with Parliament, as an example. But I think I would sort of be really interested to view your sort of thoughts around just in terms of obviously understanding what the impact is for staff and also the work-life balance, which we're all trying to achieve as well, around what we could sort of potentially gain from an efficiency point of view by implementing other sort of techniques while still trying to maintain that sort of digital advance where we're trying to increase the engagement with the youth or increasing engagement with the sort of digital sort of aspects around it, which may increase the burden on your sort of office staff as well. So what are your sort of thoughts around the use of technology potentially or the adoption of that sort of process, you know, with that sort of uptake around technology and the engagement with the, you know, youth as well?
I am pro technology simply because its right application eases the burden on the workforce. Like you have mentioned, having to process all those submissions, that would take a lot of time. And The problem is those submissions must be processed within a short time. In our case, there are times, for example, a proposed piece of legislation would be introduced on the floor of the House. Then the Speaker would ask for the committee to sit within maybe the next 3 weeks. So the amount of work that that team has to now deal with increases exponentially. We don't even know how many submissions we're going to get, and what level of detail they'll have. So using technology to at least process some of those submissions, help them maybe draw broader themes around what has been submitted and whatnot, would actually reduce the amount of work that is given to the human resource. And also, when that is done, we expect the quality of the work coming out of the committees to improve, because now they have a lot more time to deal with what has been submitted, which in essence helps our legislative mandate to move forward.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting thing. I've been working a lot recently with different parliaments and understanding the human impact of decisions which are made on the floor, or if something gets referred to a committee. And the thing is, we're talking about government money or taxpayers' money at the end of the day. And it's not like that you could potentially then scale your human resources by times 10 or tenfold, for 3 weeks. It's not practical. So it's sort of, I think, trying to find that balance between the financial responsibility but still making Parliament work. And I think with the digital innovation and digital age, it becomes increasingly harder if we don't adopt some of these processes. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Our budgets fairly constant because we're just spending agencies. We do not make money of our own as an institution. The government has other responsibilities to take care of, and it is democracy, so they have to fund National Assembly too. But because our budgets are capped at a certain percentage of the national budget in most cases, we need to find creative ways of making, or maybe let me use this common phrase, having value for money. By adopting means and ways of working that would essentially increase our output and the quality of our output whilst maintaining the same kind of funding. Like I had indicated earlier, once we implement the automated text translation for the Hansard department, the team that is currently converting audio to text could be given other assignments. Instead of them translating, they could be editors. Go through what has been given and edit and see if it meets our requirements. So the quality of the Hansard could improve. Equally, the amount of time required to produce it is cut down, because now a more routine part, it's quite tedious to be listening and typing, has been taken away. Now we could focus on the quality and reducing the amount of time it takes us to do that, instead of going ahead and bringing in more reporters to handle that part. A computerized system could handle that part. So for the same amount of money we've been funded, we've given out better products within a shorter time. I think technology has got the right place in Parliament in this case.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's sort of the I think you had a very good point around using technology not to replace people, but to focus their attention on high-value tasks, not low-value tasks. You know, I'm very sort of familiar with Hansard, and I've been working with Hansard, I think, for the last 20 years around the world. And, you know, it's very interesting seeing the progression from them listening, you know, with their headsets and typing it in, to moving towards that model around, well, here is the draft text using, say, speech to text, and then focusing on what they should be doing, which is, say, editing the content. You know, and that to me is a high value task, not just, say, you know, listening to some text in a headphone and then typing it on a keyboard as an example, or, you know, or literally, say, using drag and dictate as an example to speak it out again. And I think, you know, it is an interesting concept around using this sort of technology to supplement your work, to make it easier, so you can focus on what you should be doing rather than sort of doing what I call the low-level tasks around, which could be automated in a more meaningful way as well. Yeah. So no, it's been a fascinating conversation, I think, and really sort of understanding, you know, that some of your initiatives around the youth and mobile applications and some of those sort of technology things, which I think is really important. And I think we were just sort of speaking recently with another part of the African nations as well, and they were sort of looking up to you as well around some of the work you've been doing, which is very exciting. So I'm very appreciative of the work you've been doing, and I look forward to seeing exactly what you do in the next couple of years.